I've never seen that.
You guys don't.
Why? Oh, that's a different message than normal?
Yeah, I've never seen that, but it looks okay. It looks okay, it's red now, is that? Yep, it's good.
Oh, that's good.
Yep, I'm gonna go in.
Before action.
Yeah, because look at, now it says end stream.
Oh,
So we are live.
This is the committee that is tomorrow finals too? Yes, sir.
And Monday right now.
No, Monday, new school year for us.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw on the thing that Monday would continue because we had no school Tuesday.
We're just plugging along.
Let's not delay it.
We had a contingency plan for a 2-hour delay on Wednesday.
Very good.
Sorry to disappoint.
No, no different.
And if you ever want to know how a superintendent decides a snow day, you can watch Channel 22. And
Oh,
they came and interviewed them about
Nice.
how you make that decision to close.
All right, I'd like to call to order the curriculum subcommittee meeting. I recognize Dave Sanders from Public Access recording this meeting. We'll do roll call, Cheryl Caruana, Rich Rediker, Lisa Murray here. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have new business today. We are going to be hearing from Mr. Hale, MRHS principal, about high school program of studies update.
thank you for having us. Traditionally, each year we bring forward the substantive changes to the program of studies, to the curriculum sub for feedback and approval to the full school committee. Like to thank Nikki Smith, Associate Principal, and Keith Poulin, Director of Guidance, for all of their efforts during this process. And we'll start with Nikki.
Sure. Thank you for having us. The first topic to go over is in our English department. Based on feedback we had received from junior students, the number of offerings that we had at the junior level English, we're combining the two different together. What was happening was we would have, for example, the American Identity, Nature and American Lit, or Nature Lit. There were 3 different types of literature. And so the juniors were selecting among those, but it makes more fiscal sense to combine them together because the juniors were reporting that the similarities between the 2 courses were such that you really could do that. And so that works out much better in our favor for staffing or assigning the number of sections so that we're not reserving one teacher for one smaller section of, say, Nature Lit. Now we can have, since they're combined, these courses are combined, and we can now have class sizes around 22, 23 by doing so. So moving forward with that, the staff in the English department thought it made sense for them as well, and they're on board. So that's really the big change for the English department, is just combining that together. Yep.
What's the name of the new course?
American Experiences in Literature.
Can I ask a question? What's your policy or procedure deciding to do this? Like, when do you get feedback from students? When do you speak with staff? How do you decide?
There's a, I'll go
Go ahead.
There's a couple different areas. So student feedback is always important, and of course, reflections is something that we take into consideration when we're doing that. Also, the feedback from the staff themselves, it's hard sometimes when you're blessed, I guess, with a small class, and you see that in order for you to have that small of a class, your colleagues are having really large classes in order to sustain that. So some of it comes from staff feedback as well, and our own observations of what makes sense.
We've had to do this for the past 2 summers. So, some simple math, like you'll have, for the junior English, say 79 signups for American experiences in lit, and you'll have 16 signups for the other literature class. And so when you're scheduling, do you schedule one section of 16 and 3 sections of 28, 29, or do you combine them and that allows you to schedule 4 or 5 sections of 21 and 22? So our experience over the last couple summers and then talking to the students and their feedback was, well, I was confused with what was American experience and what was American identity. So our typical progression is literature and composition in freshman year. How to write the essay, what does that look like? Sophomore year is more of a world literature experience, and then junior year is more of an American literature experience. So that was the feedback that the kids were giving, and it was showing in the data. They weren't sure what they were signing up for.
So did the teachers get together to rehash their exams, the final exams and midterms and things, since you've kind of taken the curriculum and put it together?
Yes.
They will have,
Way.
they're already working toward that, yes, in anticipation of full support.
So in the previous summers, we've had to close one and force them into the other. This year, we'll have the benefit of time to say, what are the best elements of this American experience and what is the best elements of the American identity to create one course.
And then do you have to look back at it to make sure it would be like an accredited, when they combine, you have to make sure it's meeting?
Yes, they have to write a new curriculum
Yeah.
that aligns with the standard.
Okay.
Yeah. The skills are the same in both. The real difference is which books that they used. Was it geared toward the American identity or the American experience? So it really makes sense to combine.
What, how about this? Do teachers or anybody ever come to you and have a completely new, never done before? And when they do that, do they have an already made do they already have an already fleshed out curriculum, or is it like an idea they can work on?
So we have a course request form where that is accessible to students, but also to teachers to say, hey, I'd like to offer this course at Minichop. They don't design a full curriculum, but they design a concept. And then it's brought forth to their department chair for first approval, and then it's brought to the administration from there.
How long do you think that process usually takes?
Well, we like them, any new, to develop it or
Yeah.
from our timeline?
All of it.
Who knows when it enters someone's mind if they
Okay.
want to do it. But we like the for new course proposals, we like to have that before Thanksgiving, so that we have time to look at it and check it out and make sure we have time to say yay or nay. And then also to have time to put it before here, to get it into a program of
For the
studies.
next year?
Right, to see if kids are gonna bite.
Oh, so then what if you get a lot of proposals? How do you pick and choose?
Some have budgetary considerations that could DQ it, from the get-go or table it for the time being. Some are too specialized almost, that the draw from the student population probably wouldn't be there. So there's some looking at that, to that.
Yeah, I mean, Your schedule is best described as a tube of toothpaste. If you create a course like a carnival in junior English, and 200 kids sign up for that because it sounds like this is going to be a lot of fun, not a lot of work, then what that ends up doing is drawing away from somewhere else in your schedule. And that sometimes leads to losing or reducing other staff. So it's a giant balancing act to say, number one, how do we hold kids to high standards? Number two, how do we help all kids achieve those standards? And number three, how do you diversify the curriculum so the students experience a comprehensive curriculum?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, the next substantive change is to do away with a special education course, Learning Center Financial Algebra, and combine, or have those students who would typically go to that class go into our personal finance class. And the curriculum was essentially the same. Of course, we need to provide the specific supports that those students need, but that does help the scheduling as well, as opposed to having 5 or 6 students in one Grid C class with one teacher. We can combine, put those students in one of those personal finance classes, which helps the flexibility in their schedule, because we have more sections of that class as well.
This is often a location where we use for students who are on EPP plans for math. So if you're not familiar with what EPP is, students that don't meet a certain score on their 10th grade MCAS, but don't fail, they meet an EPP score, means that they have to continue taking math classes their entire year, entire experience, and continue to take the EPP math test during that time to show progress. Those students as seniors typically take the business personal finance class. We actually got our retest scores today from November for English and math. We had about a dozen students for each subject. English teachers and math teachers worked in tutoring groups that Nikki set up, and every single student passed the retest. And for some of our seniors, that is a huge deal, because that means diploma versus the alternative routes.
And it's all-
3 or 4 of these students were move-in seniors. So I was like, well, you got one shot. And that's not fun to say, but they did great. I'm so proud of them. Really.
And for those students who would be normally in that C grid class, it gets them into a more inclusive classroom.
John?
Could I just offer
You said C-grid students would be in this class?
Yeah, yes, they wouldn't be in the separate.
Would their supports be like a one-on-one or like a pair up or a group with them, or what?
It would depend on their individual IEP.
Yeah.
So, very often, each IEP dictates the service we provide, as you know.
Yeah.
So, if those students require a one-on-one assistance, that one-on-one assistance would accompany them in that college prep class.
Okay.
Is it me?
Yep.
Oh, all
biology.
right. Here's the big one.
Here's the big one.
Here's the big one. The time has come, we've discussed it for a couple of years, in looking at what most school districts in the Commonwealth do, the discussion of moving biology to grade 9 as opposed to grade 10. And we had a lot of conversations. We've met with the department chair to get feedback about it. in looking at our rationale for doing that, not just all of the other schools are doing it, but we've had our opportunities at the Bio MCAS, the newer one, the computer-based one with the new standards, and it's proving to be pretty challenging for our sophomores. But what we're thinking is, with moving the bio to the 9th grade and being taught in a 9th grade fashion, they have more opportunities to take the MCAS should they need to, but also having a grade 9 biology is separate. They're not taking 3 MCAS in 1 year. They're splitting that up. And so by moving this down to freshman year, for 1 year we'll have freshmen and sophomores taking biology, and then it will just remain with the freshmen. As far as any potential budgetary impact to that, just for the 1 year of having that many sections of biology, we do like to keep the sophomore and freshman experiences separated, so that if we're moving this to the freshman level, they're going to have it structured in such a way that a new student into the high school experience is going to have it away from the sophomores. And we don't, in core courses, we like to keep them separated anyway. So for 1 year, until we get the sophomores through there, it would be large. The MCAS itself would be a larger administration than I'm normally accustomed to. For 1 year, it would be like giving the spring MCAS of the entire sophomore class. That will happen for 1 year. That will happen in February and March, or excuse me, February and June, because we have the 2 grade levels taking it in that same year. It does make sense. It also gets students into chemistry sooner, so kids are having more opportunities to explore the sciences over the course of 4 years.
So the pathway for the 4 years would be basically changing for science too, to include more, you know how bio is usually sophomore year, then.
Right,
So
so
that
now
would be
you have
changing.
bio,
Yep.
and then you could, depends which way you're gonna go. Most take chemistry, but not all, and physics, not all. So you have more opportunity. What is currently there now is that 9th grade environmental science, and that can be transitioned into an elective later down the line. Like you have anatomy and physiology, or astronomy, or environmental science would be there. And we do still have the AP environmental science option as well. So having that opportunity closer to, to having it there for students as an elective would work as well.
Could you expand on, I think you said that the 9th grade experience would be, that would be taught.
Right.
What do they
So-
lose from the 10th grade experience?
What does,
What do they
What I
lose from
meant
the
when I
10th
was
grade
talking about
in
the-
terms of teaching and how you go about the curriculum, presenting it and everything?
so if I'm a teacher teaching freshmen, how do you explain that? So I'm a teacher with freshmen. Freshmen, God bless their hearts, they need a little bit more structure. They're gonna get things very specifically organized to help them with study skills, to help them with note-taking, to do all of those things in a different pace. Sophomores have had a year behind them of that already. So the experience for sophomores is we ask a little bit more of you, a little less of the for lack of a better word, the hand holding that we're able to do with freshmen. It's a little bit of a different experience. And, sophomores are happy to be sophomores. So they're looking for their own sophomore experience as well. Just a little bit different in terms of how much you're going to be working with them and modifying the curriculum for their needs. So there is a difference.
I think it's specific to this transition year, where we would have a group of sophomores taking bio and a group of freshmen. Without worrying about their developmental needs, we could just divide up that 500 students and just have them take whatever they're signing up for. Taking a little bit more care, we want to have the freshman bio experience be separate from the sophomore experience just during this transition.
This year, yeah, because I would hate to see bio experience be kind of a watered down version of what biology should be,
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean to imply that, I just meant more of
this
the,
was in my mind for
Yeah.
years.
it can be watered down because the MCAS isn't watered down.
Yeah.
So,
APR?
So the next change is really geared toward our students who are applying to art school and taking our AP Studio Art and Design. And it's changing from a semesterized course to a year-long course every other day. And that allows them to have the teacher with them throughout the year as they're building their portfolios so that they can submit those on time. If we have it in the fall and then they're working on their portfolio in the spring, and then, after school going to find the art teacher for assistance. So this really makes sense for those students. I think over the last few years, we've had more and more students applying to art school. We've added the part 3, so students there's 3 separate AP portfolios that they can actually submit. In the past, it's been geared toward having them submit one of the portfolios. Through this, they will have the full opportunity to get 2 complete portfolios, and with the assistance of the teacher, they could end up submitting 3, but that typically doesn't happen.
Question. What do they take on the opposite days?
It's typically the PE class, every other day PE class, so both of them will go through the whole year. We do have a few other alternate day or every other day courses, but that's the typical one. the
Are they
PE.
spread throughout the day, or are they a certain period?
No, we have just the one section, because we would, whether they're in the part 1, part 2, or part 3, we can put them all in the same class, and that one art teacher can differentiate the instruction geared toward their specific portfolios.
The College Board for, let's say, AP Biology, there's one test, right? For AP Art, there's portfolios. So we could all be in the same class, and Lisa's submitting portfolio 1, John's submitting portfolio 2, and Cheryl's submitting portfolio drawing, and Lisa's submitting portfolio painting. So this alternating day provides them the time that the students have expressed needing, because our current format is 1 semester, and then they would have to spend after-school time in the 2nd semester getting these portfolios ready.
Are you thinking more of the scheduling process in terms
Yeah.
of when you block a period and then what else the teacher does during the rest of the other periods and things like that?
Absolutely.
Does this kind of scheduling lend itself to music?
Yes.
It could.
You could do their band or strings, percussion ensemble,
Right.
digital music, we've had alternating day sections of that. So,
Do you want to talk about yearbook?
Well, I was just gonna say, if I could jump ahead, one of the other options for that every other day is a new course that we are proposing, and that is the yearbook that's on the second to the last page. And that would be that same teacher who is our yearbook advisor. On the alternate day from the AP Studio Art, he'd be teaching the yearbook class. We hope that that would encourage more students to participate in the yearbook production as opposed to just an after-school club.
And the process of a yearbook has evolved over time. When I was in high school in 1989, it was simply pictures. Now there's a QR code for videos. There's movies of highlights from different games. There's pictures of them when they were young, pictures of their pets, pictures of them in activities. So it's a lot to manage to create the kind of yearbook experience the kids want, and it can't be managed after school as a club.
And there's a very specific timeline to get all the different sections in for production to get it back in time.
You got one section of each of these?
Depends on the sign.
Depends on times, but traditionally there would be one of each. Continuing in fine arts, we have offered in the years past introductory to piano as a fine art credit, introductory to guitar as a fine art credit, and our history has shown that we'll get about 6 or 7 sign-ups for piano and 6 or 7 sign-ups for guitar. It's very challenging to dedicate resources to those 14 students. So we asked the fine art department, how could we offer something that combines these interests? And so they came up with Intro to Rock Band. So in this new course, they'll get some exposure to piano, some exposure to guitar, some exposure to bass, some exposure to vocals, percussion, and have that whole experience as a fine art offering.
It really, in the draw too, is kids who've never held an instrument or never had a lesson, to just have a chance to get in and learn what music can offer in different ways. You never, sometimes you don't want to take 20 weeks of a course, and this way you get to test each one out.
I'm afraid of what years are considered modern rock now. I'm like, ooh,
Well,
ouch.
A little bit of auto-tune.
Yeah.
A little bit of digital music, a drum machine rather than actual drums.
Any more questions on that? So in our Tech Ed Business Computer Science, we have the reactivation, happily reactivation of electronics and robotics. We finally have a member of our staff who has experience in robotics, and also in his former district, some experience with Project Lead the Way. At the middle school level, we have that here in Minnetonka, starting to explore a little bit about that. This would be a nice place for us to get started in that arena with someone who has experience not only in the subject matter, but in the Project Lead the Way as well. That specific teacher is doing a very good job, and I think you can attest to that maybe from your former district. So this kind of starts the process for us with a staff member who can help us leverage that experience and teach us a different way of looking at it. It's also an extension of conversations that we have had at subcommittee and in the larger school committee about getting the students into those types of courses and having had struggles over the past few years. So to have it disappear, but we're ready to go again with that, with someone who we feel is really strong in that area. So it's pretty exciting. It'd be fair to say there would be a budgetary impact in bringing that back. However, that would be a reusable items of about $10,000 to get that up and running again. But again, the pieces needed for that would be reusable, but I think it's important to note that to get that back in business and up to snuff, that's what we would have to do. So I'm actually excited about that one. That was a tough thing to see not there.
Keith already talked about yearbook. One of the new programs that we're offering is kind of leveraging Renee Considine's success in the internship program. And I know she's coming to a future curriculum sub. And looking at a teacher assistant program, which is something that through some high school visits I learned about and looking at their program of studies. So the way the teacher assistant program would work, first of all, it would expand to juniors. Currently our internship program is just for seniors. So we would have juniors or seniors, and they would apply to be a teacher assistant in a freshman level core content class. So whether that is history, math, English, or social studies, they would be that teacher's TA, just like at a grad school, and help freshmen in an embedded tier 2 format to help those kids be successful. They will have already taken that class as juniors or seniors, and it's an opportunity to really not necessarily explore teaching, although we know that the interest in becoming educators across the country is declining greatly, so we're hoping to inspire some future teachers, but also it provides the teachers some in-class assistance with experienced kids. Very much like we have the PE leader program in the physical education classes, this would be a leadership program within our core content. We figured we would incentivize it some way by offering it as an honors class, because that will create a benefit to their GPA.
Is there any thought to have the high school students that want to be a teacher assistant pair with free?
So we currently have that in our internship program. So if somebody is thinking about education, they can go and do an internship senior year with Mile Tree, Stony Hill, Sewell Road, what have you. We have probably 80 or so interns this year that are exploring that. This TA program kind of expands it into junior year. We talked about sophomores, but we weren't sure if they were too close in age level.
That's why I was mentioning the younger children at
Yeah.
they could just walk across the street.
That's a possible expansion in future years, absolutely. Grade 10, not within our building, but across the street. Yeah.
I also, in thinking about it from another perspective too, is that our freshmen could really use some strong role models from our upperclassmen to learn how to be a good student. And I think having, that older teenager there in that sort of instructional, that teaching assistant role is good for everybody.
And that concludes our proposed changes. I think obviously our proposed changes for 25, 26 might be much greater with adding a grade level potentially. But this is where we're at for next year.
Good job.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So that was a lot of fun.
Well, I think I would say two things. One, we gave a round of applause to Nikki and also the teacher tutors that worked with the students for the November retest. But I'd like to include Aaron Osborne in that because he helps to try and find the funding to make all that happen. And secondly, I think the applause, Keith's been at Minichog for 11 years. He's retiring in June, and he's done really fabulous work. And want to thank Keith for all of his years of service. This is his last program of studies, and just want to recognize him for that work. And Aaron was 3 seconds late.
I think he was listening outside.
Yeah.
He was listening outside.
Not much gets by Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah,
If
thank
any
you very
questions
much.
comes up with the full committee, we're happy to come back.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
For all
you.
of the work, thank you. All right.
To